got game 3 back in the Garden between the Knicks and the Cavs. Who do you think is going to come out on top and why?
Man, I hate picking against them. I do, but I'm sticking with my prediction. I think Cleveland does it again. Not necessarily a blowout, but I think the Cavaliers have figured out the formula to figuring the Knicks out. I mean, Josh Hart is playing injured, so he wasn't as effective as he once was in game 1 with a sprained left ankle. But we're looking at the same stat line that we did before. Julius Randle, 8 of 20, 6 turnovers. RJ Barrett, he was 4 of 12 in game 1. He was 4 of 13 in game 2, 14 points. It is just the Knicks are inefficient at getting good looks. They missed some open shots, but at the same time, they weren't able to knock down they weren't able to knock down the open looks either. Excuse me. I meant to say they took some difficult shots, but they also had some open looks that they couldn't capitalize as well. There were just a lot of unnecessary situations to where shots were forced. The Knicks couldn't penetrate. Jared Allen was protecting the rim. And again, when shots were falling for Cleveland and not on the other side, confidence left the Knicks. Obviously, the momentum of the game, the crowd just took over, and the Knicks just could not get to the strike. I mean, if I'm looking at this correctly, they shot 29. No, excuse me. I'm actually completely incorrect. They had 30 free throws. They got to the free throw line, and that still wasn't enough. They took 30 free throws and made 25. I meant to say they couldn't shoot efficiently from the three-point line. That's the number I was looking at. They shot 24% from 3, 36% from the field. That is not how you win playoff basketball games. I just don't understand what they were expecting to get from this because Darius Garland took over this game. Normally, that would be Donovan Mitchell's role, but I guess he heard. He didn't go out there. He didn't play 40-plus minutes. He didn't take 30-plus shots. He only took 11 shots and scored 17 points. That's because Darius Garland went out there and dropped 32. That's because Chris LeVert came off the bench playing 40 minutes, and he dropped 24. That's because, obviously, you go and you look at Mobley. He played a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently. He had a couple steals, a couple blocks. He had 13 boards, 13 points. He did what he needed to do. The role players of the Cleveland Cavaliers stepped up in every way you needed them to. Whereas on the Knicks side, Emmanuel quickly had a better game than in the game 1. He had 12, but Josh Hart had 5. Obi Toppin had 7. Quinn Grimes had 4. Mitchell Robinson had 2. These are not how you win. I'm looking at RJ Barrett. I'm saying you were the number 3 overall pick. You just got paid, and you cannot hit a ball if you were on the beach and had to throw it into the ocean. That's how bad you're playing. Knicks fans, as I've heard, as I've seen, and as I've texted people, they're not happy with RJ Barrett. They called him the king of New York. They called him our future. Where's he at? He has not performed in both postseason appearances that he has had. Julius Randle, when are we going to stop giving him excuses? Did he have 22 points and 8 rebounds? Yes. 6 turnovers? Why are you bringing the ball up as consistently as you do? This is not going to fly in the in the postseason. It just doesn't work that way. When you're guarded by bigger, more physical opponents and even the younger, quickly Mobley, I don't know how you're going to consistently try to bully yourself into the post. 8 of 20. Outside, you took the most shots on this team. You had 22 points on 20 shots. People used to give Kobe hell when he would have 36 on 32 shot attempts. Where is that same slander for Julius Randle? Are you going back to the Garden? Absolutely. Are you going to have an electric crowd? 100%. But if this game goes south, that electric crowd will turn against you in a millisecond. They're going to start cheering for damn Cleveland because that's just how New York fans are. You need to be careful that this doesn't get away from you and you guys knock down those looks because if not, the New York Knicks are going to be in the same situation that they were in against the Hawks a few years ago where they won the first game. The crowd went crazy. Obviously, New York went off talking all this shit and they weren't able to back it up. I expect Jalen Brunson to play better. I expect Josh Hart to play a little bit better despite the injury. I expect Julius Randle to find a way to turn it around. Somehow, I keep having hope. But for RJ Barrett and what you've shown me in your 2 playoff appearances, it ain't looking good, Chief. If you continue this poor performance and the Knicks lose in the postseason again and you didn't have the greatest regular season, don't be surprised RJ Barrett might get moved this offseason. I know he just got the contract, but that's not what they looked for when they gave you that bag. So the Knicks have a lot of question marks going into game 3, but I got Cleveland winning this one in the Garden.
Yeah, in this case, I agree with you, Kev. I'm going to go with the Cavs as well. Just the night and day difference that we saw from game 1 to game 2 from Cleveland was very stark. It just seemed to me in game 2, they finally got their footing, right? It seemed like they were just going too fast in game one. And I think the pace of the game going into game two was much more suited to what they're accustomed to. And it's like I said, bro, the Cavs were damn near up, if not 30 points at one point against the Knicks. I understand that the final box score was 107-90, but Kev, we were talking about that game two when it was happening. It was a wrap basically by the end of the third quarter. Like there was no way the Knicks were coming back. Now going into game three, I do believe that the Knicks are going to get off to a better start than they did in game two. Just because in game two, Kev, that second quarter was abysmal by New York. They got doubled up 34-17 in just that quarter alone. So, when it comes to the Knicks, they definitely have to be on their P's and Q's going into game three. Because if not, going down 2-1, granted, they would have another home game after that. It's not a position you want to be in. And, this all kind of is in part just to what Cleveland did so effectively in game two. They were just knocking down their 3-point shots very consistently. If you go into a game and you could shoot somewhere around 35 to 40% behind the 3-point line, typically you're putting about 25, 30 3-point attempts up a game. If you're near that mark or if you're above that, you take that every game you get. And they shot over 42% from the field. That was a huge difference in this game to me because you juxtapose it with New York. New York only shot 24% behind the 3-point line. They hit 7 out of 29 threes, like Kevin said. And the Cavs doubled them up. The Cavs hit 14 threes in that game. And that was despite the fact that Kevin just alluded to the free throw disparity between both New York and Cleveland. New York definitely had the free throw advantage, but, you have a 7 3-point advantage going against you if you're New York, just because Cleveland was knocking them down left and right. That was the outcome, unfortunately, for New York in game two. Now, I do think this game three will be more competitive than what we saw in game two. I just believe that when it comes to, we can look at New York, for example. Emmanuel Quickley definitely needs to have a better performance going into game three. Had a better performance in game two, but we know that Emmanuel Quickley could get somewhere around 20, 25 points a game. And I think this could be one of those games where he finally steps up and has one of those performances. But Jalen Brunson still needs to be able to knock down a high number of his shots. The same goes with Julius Randle. And like Kevin said, RJ needs to do the same. If they're not getting these decent contributions going up against Cleveland, and Cleveland has a very good chance to be able to really knock down some shots behind the 3-point line, the Knicks could be staring at a 2-1 deficit here. And I know I've talked a lot about New York, and I picked the Cavs, but that's just because the Cavs just blew the doors off of the Knicks in game two. So the adjustment to me is more related to New York. If New York does not make the proper adjustments going into game three, then they're going to suffer the same fate that they had in game two going into game three. I do believe that, with Donovan Mitchell being at the Garden, this is one of the most coveted places that Knicks fans wanted Mitchell. They wanted Donovan to be a New York Knick and ended up going to Cleveland. And I think that Donovan's going to be in that space where it's like, well, this is what you could have had. And I think he's going to go out there, probably drop somewhere around 30, 35 points. I think he has a very good chance to take this game over and really dazzle that New York crowd, especially when he gets into a rhythm. I think another thing that we have to look at is Darius Garland going to have a similar type of performance that he had in game two? I think he's still going to be effective. I don't know if he's going to drop over 30 points, but I think if he drops somewhere around 20, 25, I think it's going to immensely help them out going into New York. And I think just one more piece of the puzzle when it comes to Cleveland, it's going to be their bigs. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, these two in particular, they stepped up, especially Evan Mobley. I said after game one that Mobley was just out of sorts that entire game one, but he came back strong in that game two. Definitely made a more focused effort in game two and really had some good stretches in that game. Damn near played 40 minutes. I think that he's going to get a similar type of burn. I think he's going to have a similar type of performance. And if he does that, if Cleveland is able to establish just the paint area that they were able to establish in game two, that was something that they really struggled in game one. I think that the Cavs will get into a consistent rhythm in this game. And I think when it's all said and done, I think the Cavs will be up 2-1 in this series going into game four. It's just, I like the momentum that the Cavs are building off of right now, especially just whooping on the Knicks in game two. I think I'm going to side with them in this one. I still think it's going to be a competitive game nonetheless. I think the Knicks will get it off to a better start, and it's going to just be a back and forth affair throughout the rest of the game. But I think when we get into these fourth quarter stages, especially late in the fourth, I think the Knicks are going to be the ones unfortunately missing their shots, and I think the Cavs are going to be able to knock down some critical shots that are going to get them this win to bump them up to a 2-1 series advantage in favor of Cleveland.